Kimbrell. I am the administrative assistant here at Anderson Chapel. I also work as part of the media ministry. It was great working with Lighthouse. Everyone was very professional, came in to do video recording and streaming for a conference that we hosted here on time. They did what they needed to do, was seamless and transparent. It was great. The feedback, everyone was impressed. So it went out, it was a conference level, so a state level event, and everyone was impressed with the product and the result. We got the DVDs too, which people purchased, and they were impressed with those. It was great overall.
Hello, my name is Roy Gillis, founder and CEO of Lighthouse Streaming. Over the last 4 years, we've had some tremendous successes, none of which could have been accomplished without you, our clients, and our viewers. From my family and the staff of Lighthouse Streaming, thank you.
My name is Tashay Sayes. I'm a music major at MCC, and I'm so happy to be here. It's crazy how I got here.
My name is Emily Adams. I'm the marketing director for the Texas Asphalt Pavement Association. We are here at our 3rd annual MAPS conference at the Waco Convention Center in beautiful Waco, Texas. I think the event has exceeded all of our expectations. We had an amazing turnout and great sessions and nothing but positive feedback. So this is our first conference in a convention center, and I'm used to working with hotels where there's like one person to talk to for everything. And so at the last minute, we realized we needed audio and video services. And so I contacted Lighthouse Streaming and Audio, and they were very quick to respond. They were able to, even though it was the last minute, they were able to fit us into their schedule, and they provided us with technicians and equipment to record our sessions, and we'll be able to provide the people who are speaking at those sessions with great video of themselves. I would highly recommend them. I highly recommend Lighthouse Streaming and Audio. I had nothing but a pleasant experience, and if we come back to Waco again, which we hope to do, I know I'll be in touch with them.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into Centex Primetime. I am your host, Jalen Gillis, getting ready to take you through the primetime topics in sports, not just in the Central Texas area, but from all around the nation. Happy Tuesday to everybody out there today, as it is a great week for sports this week. We've got March Madness in full effect. We got a chance to talk about it yesterday. We're going to talk about it some more today, and today we'll break down some more of the bracket and give you guys some real insight, at least to what we think here today, and we'll do that a little bit later on in the show. We got to talk about some NFL news. NFL free agency still going crazy right now. Everybody seems to be getting some money as of right now, and teams out here really trying to change their future or potentially hurt their future. We'll talk about both of those, both scenarios coming up here today. We'll talk a little bit about some NBA as well, as the NBA season is in full effect. The best time to watch NBA season right here before the playoffs. The teams are more competitive than ever throughout the season as they're trying to fight for playoff position. So we'll talk about the NBA as well. So we got plenty to talk about here today on Centex Primetime. I want to thank everybody for joining in with us here today over on YouTube, Centex Sports TV / Centex Sports Network on YouTube as well. Also on Facebook and Twitter, or X, whichever one you want to call it, at Centex Sports TV. Also live on there as well. You can check us out right here, 5 to 7 p.m. weekdays on Centex Sports Network. Well, folks, like I said, we got a lot to talk about here today on Centex Primetime. So we'll get right to it. Joining me here in studio, got the man that you see here weekly, Mr. Rocky Miller, in the building with us. Rocky, what's going on?
Oh, man, it's another great weekend this past weekend in sports.
Sure.
A lot happened.
Yeah.
We have HBC Coach's Corner.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
1 hour after this show ends, so I'm looking forward to doing that. And, man, but I'm ready to get into these conversations about the NFL, the March Madness.
Yeah.
Both, we could touch on the girls and the boys side a little bit.
For sure.
And, and of course me, I know it's March Madness. I know it's a lot of NFL offseason going on. But for me, the NBA action has me completely locked in a way that it hadn't been in years, to be honest with you, with Luka transitioning from the Dallas Mavericks to the Lakers, LeBron being injured. All that is made for a sensational story following the Lakers. And so I'm glad they got a win last night against the Spurs.
Back-to-back wins.
It's good for them to get back-to-back wins after taking that 4-game losing streak. So, but yeah, man, I can't wait, man. I can't wait till we get in these conversations, get to talking about what's going on in sports.
Now, most definitely. So we're gonna get right to it, folks. We'll start with a little bit of NFL. We had Wayne Walker on there yesterday. We talked about some of these NFL storylines, and I want to get Rock's opinion on some of these. I want to start with this. I guess you can't say new look, but kind of a different era here for the Cincinnati Bengals, and they paid their players. This is something that we haven't seen from Mike Brown, the owner there in Cincinnati. They paid their players, and I'm not exactly sure if that was the right thing to do, paying both of those guys at the exact same time, the amount of money that they got paid. Now, we all talked about this last week on the show about Jamar Chase and what Justin Jefferson's numbers was on his contract, and we were all agreeing that, hey, Jamar Chase is going to want more money than that. He came out there and he got more money than that, $161 million on 4 years. He got more guaranteed money, I think $115 guaranteed on his contract for the next 4 years. So Jamar Chase gets what he wanted before the season started last year. He wanted that extension. He goes out there and wins the Triple Crown. Now that extension is more expensive. T. Higgins gets his extension, and that was the biggest question mark because I don't think there was any question in anybody's mind would Jamar Chase get paid. The question was, what are they going to do with the future of T. Higgins? And they go out there and they pay T. Higgins 4 years, $114 million to stay with the Cincinnati Bengals. He will stay there with Joe Burrow, with Jamar Chase. They'll keep that trio together. But with them taking up that much room on their cap space, the question that I have at least is, was this a good move for the Bengals? Well, definitely happy for T. Higgins getting his money. Definitely happy for Jamar Chase getting his money, well-deserved money that he was able to go out there and get. But is this the right way to set up the future of the Cincinnati Bengals, knowing all the deficiencies they have on the defensive side of the ball, knowing the deficiencies they have on their offensive line. Now you tie up this much money on your cap with just 3 guys. It's going to be a little bit tough building out this team moving forward. Really have to go through the draft. So what was your thoughts, Rocky, on T. Higgins getting paid, Jamar Chase getting paid, and then this Bengals moving forward after they paid those guys?
So I think we're headed toward an era of NFL football that I think is that's about compensating players for their worth in their prime.
Yeah.
So when I start this conversation, there's 2 things. Are these deals fair, or is it and does it benefit the Bengals in the long run? Here's what I'll say, Jalen, is that the NFL for so long has, in my opinion, been underpaying players in the most dangerous sport in professional sports.
Yep.
And because of that, you had guys risking life and limb for in my opinion, meager sums of money.
Yeah.
Right? This is literally the first generation of players, I believe, that will be compensated that is compensated fairly in concert with the risk that they're taking.
Yeah.
And so, am I happy that T. Higgins or Jamar Chase got paid? Absolutely.
Oh, for sure.
But I will say this, they only get paid because Joe Burrow insists that they pay his guys, or they may suffer the same circumstances they suffered back when Carson Palmer just walked away from the team because the team didn't want to retain, their players. So again, I think it's a great job by the Cincinnati Bengals to reward players who are very productive in the NFL. I think that's the merit system. That's the system. For so many times, the quarterback was the only guy on this roster getting paid in the NFL, and I thought that was a travesty and just really misrepresented what was truly important about the NFL, which was it's the greatest team game in sports. And so in order to be successful in the greatest team game, it has to be more than just the quarterback being fairly compensated. Now, this is what I will say. I don't think this was necessarily done out of generosity of the Bengals. We're at a time in sports where the NFL salary cap in 10 years has ballooned from $143 million all the way up to $279 million. So that's $100 million in cap space that's been created. Now think about this. If you take T. Higgins, I think he's on the books for 29. Jamar Chase on the books for 40. And then Joe Burrow is on the books for 55. Right? If you just look at that, that's just the 140 increase of the cap. So you still have the 143 filled the whole team out 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So you still have considerable amount of money to work with.
Yeah.
You can't probably make, there's no more 100 millionaires available. You can't make any more 100 millionaires on the team. But certainly you can make some guys some 20 millionaires and some 30 millionaires.
Yeah.
And I think, again, at the end of the day, with this kind of money available, I think teams are going to be able to retain their drafted players, and team building may look a little different than it has in the past.
That's true.
I got to always bring up my Cowboys when I'm talking about the NFL. One of the things I always appreciated by Jerry is Jerry, when he drafted a guy and the guy played well, he was always inclined to pay a guy. And I'll say this. Anytime we drafted a guy and the guy played well and we didn't pay him, it always came back to bite us. I can't remember the kid that played well for us. We've kind of drafted him as a safety, ended up being a corner, couldn't catch a cold, but he ended up going to Miami. And he wasn't a great player for Miami. But that year that he was, I forget his name, big, tall corner, 31 was his number.
Byron Jones.
Yes.
Byron Jones. Yeah.
But the year he left, I think that's Mo Claiborne's last year in the NFL. And so that's the kind of play we got from the guy that replaced him.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of never works out when you let the guy that played well for you walk out the door. It doesn't work out for him a lot of times, and it doesn't work out for you as a team. So I'm glad to see when we can retain players that have played well for us, that really exceed expectations.
Yeah.
And then we have to end up, letting them go. I'm glad we're in an era where we can sign those guys and retain those guys. I think that's what the Bengals decided to do. Rather than take a chance on someone else's guy, let's just pay our guys. Now, here's how it's going to be framed by a lot of people in NFL circles. Oh, you can't build a team with the foundation of your team being 2 wide receivers and a quarterback. Well, we saw last year they were the highest scoring offense in the NFL, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Maybe behind the Eagles.
Or close to. It was just between them and Baltimore was up there too.
And probably when their defense was playing better toward the end of the season, they were pretty much unbeatable, and they beat several playoff teams down the stretch.
Broncos, Chargers.
So when you look at what they were able to do with that team, right, and certainly based on the way they play defensively, if they just draft a little bit better, get a few more players in the draft, right, they could possibly improve their situation defensively, and they still have, their big three. Their big three guys. I wasn't happy with the way they let Joe Mixon go a couple years ago, and they weren't as productive in the running game.
No,
but
not even close.
But it didn't stop them from putting up points.
It didn't stop them from scoring at all.
It probably hurt their defense more than anything by not having Joe carry the ball enough. But again, if it's one position you can find in the draft,
it's running back.
It's running back
every year,
so
especially this year.
So again, I think team building is going to look a little different with all this money available. Also, as fans, NFL fans, and all the money that's available, we got to also look forward to our sport. The players conducting themselves more like NBA players than NFL players.
That's true.
NFL players, because think about this. Now, this is going to be kind of nightmarish for the NFL, but it's the reality. You're going to pay Chase $40 million this year, $40 million next year, $40 million his third year, and he's going to be looking for another deal. You understand what I'm saying?
Get 60.
Yeah. He's going to be looking, because these guys signed 4-year deals. They didn't sign 5-year deals. So that third year, you're either going to be looking for a new contract or the trade.
Yeah. And the contracts are getting smaller and smaller. Just 10, 15 years ago, it was common to see a 5-6 year contract. Well, hardly ever. I just seen, we talked about Derek Stingley became the highest paid corner in NFL history. He signed a 3-year. Because he knows, hey man, I'm 25. I'm gonna get another. I'm trying to get another big contract.
Well, I think what's happening is that you don't have to use as much funny money now that the salary cap is so big.
Yeah, that's
know what I mean. You used to have to use funny money, and what I mean by funny money, use signing bonuses and roster bonuses as a means to pay a player. And kind of and reduce the salary cap impact of those salaries. But now what you end up looking at is you can pay $40 million is plenty of money. You don't have to put anything else with that.
no incentives needed for $40 million to make it what, 50?
$40 million annually. When you're paying a guy $5 million annually, and then you want him to sign a 6-year deal, and you have to end up paying him, 6 times 5 is 30, and you give him, say, well, we're gonna give you 10 up front, and then you get to stretch that other 10 over the 6 years of the contract to create salary cap room. That's the way they kind of operated before. There's really no need to do that anymore, because you can pay
$270 million.
And let's be honest, there are only 4 positions getting paid in the NFL right now:
receiver, quarterback, edge, corner. Yeah, that's right.
Just think about this: left tackle. There's only really 3 or 4 left tackles really getting paid right now. So left tackle, the two of the positions, which is left tackle and corner,
Mm-hmm.
they there's probably 5 of those guys in each position that
Yeah.
are really getting paid. So you look
And
at
just
there's
recently
a
got
high
paid,
paid
too.
wide receiver pretty much on every team,
Oh,
but
yeah.
and of course there's a high paid quarterback on every team.
Mhm.
But positions like corner, there's probably 6 or 7 corners really
Yeah.
getting paid.
Surtain, Ramsey, Stingley. It's not too many other
Yeah,
corners.
and then when you talk about left tackles, you the same thing.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, after Trent Williams, Stanley, I can't think of any.
No, because a lot of the best
Tunsil's contract is so
Tunsil,
old
yeah.
that it doesn't even.
yeah, it's not
he's
even comparable.
Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, outside of them 3, all the rest of the best tackles in the game are all young dudes on rookie contracts.
and look at this in relation to the growth of the salary cap. And watch
Mhm.
this. You say this. All of the other positions, like running back,
Mm-hmm.
their salaries have been reduced over the past 10 years.
Yep.
Linebackers, their
Linebackers,
salaries
for
are
sure.
reduced over the past 10 years.
Definitely.
Safeties, their
Uh-huh.
salaries have reduced over the past
Probably
10
the
years.
most.
So when you think the cap is growing, surely it's growing, but only 4 positions are really getting paid.
That's a
now.
good point. It's just really only those 4 guys, and I guess you could say 5. You want to throw in the tackle position because a couple dudes that were regular got some big contracts.
Well,
this last one, but
I
outside
think-
of that,
I think you can throw defense. You can put edge, but I think if you throw defensive line as a
just
group,
as a group, yeah.
as a group,
Yeah,
you
for
can
sure.
because there's not a lot of those guys.
Yeah,
There's
Milton got
probably one
paid.
defensive lineman on all good teams that are going to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
But because I don't see teams where they pay an edge and a tackle. They're
Yeah.
going to pay a tackle or an edge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not many teams that's got all of the.
Well, and
the
that's
whole
one of the
line.
reasons why I think got to bring the Cowboys up. So
Yeah.
you think about Micah.
Uh-huh.
Micah's probably a Hall of Fame linebacker if he plays linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact of the matter is, he wants to play edge because of the money.
Yeah. Seen Myles Garrett get $40 million a year.
And I don't know that he's a Hall of Fame edge. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He's
but
on that trajectory, but yeah.
Yeah.
Because he got 3 first-team All-Pros.
I mean, if you just I look at it a little different. I look at it how if you just record sacks,
Mm-hmm.
then if you just look at sacks, he's on a Hall of Fame
Yeah.
trajectory.
That's really what I was talking about.
But when you can't compare an edge guy like he doesn't have the performance of a Reggie White or a Bruce Smith,
J.J.
or-
Watt.
or- you know what I mean? He's not.
Yeah,
he's not
nowhere
that.
close.
Now
Yeah,
his
no.
versatility makes him
Yeah.
handy in other ways.
Mm-hmm.
But when you just evaluate him as an edge,
Yeah.
he's
yeah,
not
yeah.
one of those. He's not
Not
one
even-
of those
not even
guys
close.
as an edge.
Not even close.
So but if you look at him as a linebacker and his being able to rush the passer, cover a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
also stuff the run and run from sidelines, I believe he could be unquestionably a Hall of Fame linebacker. But
For sure.
linebackers don't get paid, so
They don't.
He
They don't. Zach Bond just first-team All-Pro, led the league in tackles, and he got a decent contract, but we're looking at Myles Garrett, $40 million a year. We're looking at Jamar Chase, $40 million. I mean, Derek Stingley just got $30 a year on his first big contract. He's getting $30 a year and became the highest-paid DB in history. So, yeah, you're right. That's a very interesting point. The devaluing of some of these other positions in the NFL kind of almost increased the cap even more. Even with the rise in the 270, the cap has increased even more because we only got to pay a safety $8-9 million a year. If you're I'm talking about an all-pro safety.
Yes.
At the most, we're gonna give you $15 a year.
I bet if you go back and look at Ed Reed's salary, whatever his top salary is,
Mm-hmm.
there's not many guys playing safety making what Ed Reed was making, and that'd probably be 10 years ago at least.
Yeah, at least.
I think Ed Reed, as an aging player, went to Texas and got maybe $5 or $6 million.
Mm-hmm.
There's not many safeties making $5 or $6 million now.
No, not at all. Not at all. A lot of the safeties, I mean, that they're almost pushing them out of the league. 2 really good safeties right now that was just all pros a couple years ago, free agents still right now. So, yeah, I mean, it's not many people getting paid that type of money. I think he was getting his last big contract. He was getting close to $16 a year.
That Ed Reed?
Yeah.
Oh, there's nobody making
No.
there's nobody making that. There's nobody.
Yeah. So that tells you how different positions are valued now.
Yeah.
I'm sure Ray Lewis is probably more than any linebacker right now, maybe outside of
Absolutely.
Fred
And
Warner or a couple other guys.
We know even though McCaffrey and
Saquon just got it.
Saquon just went over what Adrian Peterson did, but Adrian Peterson's contract was probably 15 years ago.
Yeah.
That when he
Exactly.
got that 16 or 17 million year contract, I want to say 16.5 was what his contract was when he signed it. But you see how long it took that contract to be eclipsed. It was probably I know about 15 years. I want to say he signed that contract in 2009 maybe.
Yeah, right before he got hurt. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the economics of football, even though it's changing, so to speak, for certain positions, it hadn't changed very much at all.
Yeah.
And you look at a guy like Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett, in 2 weeks, he goes from a guy that publicly demands a trade, and he is happy as a lark.
Highest paid player, non-QB until Jamar Chase just signed.
Well, I mean, you look at it. If you're Myles Garrett and you want to be traded, you feel like you can't win here, you can't get anything done. You're wasting what is a Hall of Fame, first ballot Hall of Fame career, and they put that 100 on you.
Start to think about it a little bit different. 40 a year for an edge rusher. Yeah, I'm gonna start looking at it a little bit different. I'm sure if there are state taxes in Cleveland, I'm sure it's a lot cheaper than Los Angeles or New York or any of those
with that kind of money, you can afford.
You can afford any state tax.
Yeah, you can afford to pay, and you're looking at a guy, and it was it was done pretty much expeditiously, if you want to say that. In that he complained on a Thursday and or Tuesday, and I think he signed the biggest deal by the weekend.
He was complaining about wanting to get traded right before the draft.
He had 2 years left on his deal.
Yeah, 1 or 2 years left on his deal. Yep. And they extended him for another 4. So he said, "I will stay right here in Cleveland happily and count my $40 million a year that I'm making." So I think that's a good point, man. The economics of football is, completely different as of right now.
Yeah, for some positions.
Yeah.
And of course, now what I'm really and I think this is part of it, as we continue this conversation, so to speak, is a guy like Brock Purdy. You notice Brock hadn't signed just yet.
And they've been saying for weeks that they're close to getting his deal done.
I think they're playing hardball with him, though.
Yeah, I think they are, too.
Either they're going to have him an incentive-laden deal that possibly could pay him $60 million a year, but if he hit his incentive, whatever the incentives they put it on. But I don't see a world where they're cutting, where the San Francisco 49ers have traded Debo or attempted to trade Brandon Ayuk.
Ayuk, yep.
Right? Cut the what's the guy's name of the fullback?
Yeah, Juszczyk. He just re-signed on.
I think one of the linemen, Stanley or somebody, or one of their linemen just signed a deal with somebody and a guard.
Yeah, Moore, the tackle they had. He just signed a big deal with somebody.
Yeah, so they'll have half of their offense back, and you're expecting Brock Purdy to now what essentially will be to carry the offense, and you're going to give him $60 million?
Not a chance.
Not a chance.
No, I don't see that happening. And I think what hurt his, I guess, however big he thought his market was, is the Sam Darnold signing. I think he, 3 years, 110, or 4 years, 110, something like that. So he's not getting 60 a year, 50 a year.
So I think it would be okay. Let's look at Brock Purdy's situation. He could play it out and be remember, he's going to be a restricted free agent.
Yes,
because he doesn't have the 5th-year option that the first-round draft picks get. He's going to be a restricted free agent. Who would we be willing to sign him and give up a first-round draft pick?
Nobody.
Give him millions and a first-round draft pick?
Nobody.
I just think as a prospect, he's just not a great prospect as a quarterback, and I think a lot of his success is attributed to Shanahan's system.
For sure.
You got to understand. I mean, I didn't know this until doing some research.
Mm-hmm.
But Jimmy Garoppolo, as a quarterback, was not really thought very highly of, outside the Shanahan system.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so he was able to get to a Super Bowl.
Yep.
And lose.
And lose.
And so if you don't think much of Garoppolo, what do you think of Purdy?
Can't be too much more, in my opinion. And I've been saying that this whole year. We watched Garoppolo go to the Super Bowl with these guys. We cannot overdo what Brock Purdy did for the 49ers, because we all know what we think of Garoppolo, either with the 49ers or with the Patriots or with the Raiders or with whoever he was with. And we can't overvalue, in my opinion, what Brock Purdy has done with the 49ers. And I think the Sam Darnold deal hurt him a ton, because 3 years, $100 million is what Sam Darnold signed for. That's around $30 a year. I think most people in the NFL will probably take Sam Darnold over a Brock Purdy as of right now. And he signed for $30 a year. So you can't come and ask for 45 or for 50 or for 55 just because of your team's success of getting to the Super Bowl, when Sam Darnold just signed for 30 and you coming off your worst year as a pro, or as a starter at least. So
and 2 years, I ain't gonna say 2 years of being hurt, but I say 1 year of being hurt,
mm-hmm.
and then another year of kind of being dinged up to the point to where, you had to have surgery toward the end of the year,
mm-hmm. on his elbow.
That
was his rookie year.
That was the year before.
The year before they went to the Super Bowl.
Before he went to the Super Bowl,
mm-hmm.
but he set some games out last year, I want to say.
Yes, he did.
Due to injury.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I think is fair, because I think Brock Purdy is worth something,
mm-hmm.
and I think he's specifically worth something to the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah,
because what he was able to do was he allowed them to get out of what up to this point seems like a disastrous pick of Trey Lance, and it not really affect the fortunes of the team.
He saved a lot of guys by what he did, for sure.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
But as a team, and obviously rebuilding.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what do you do? I mean, what do you do? Do you go? Do you put the fates of a team in a guy who is Mr. Irrelevant,
mm-hmm.
a guy who hasn't proven he can carry a team?
Mm-hmm. I think with a guy like Brock Purdy, you have to. He's a huge piece to the 49ers at the right price. At the wrong price, he'll be the end of the 49ers run. That's what I believe. I think at the wrong price, at a $50 million a year, $55 million a year, he'll ruin the run that they've been on. At the right price, he can be the most essential piece for the 49ers' success.
So, but let me ask you this:
mm-hmm.
at this salary cap,
mm-hmm.
what's the difference for the 49ers between 35 and 45 or 45 and 60?
I think 35 and 45 is not that big of a difference. I think 30 or 35 and 55 is that big of a difference, because that's another tackle. That's another receiver. That's another safety. That's somebody, especially with the injury-prone team that you have. Depth is always an issue for you guys. So having a thin, because that's really what happened with them last year. They got to their ceiling. They paid Debo. They paid Brandon Ayuk. They paid C-Mac. And then guys got hurt. Well, we can't even sign. We can't get anybody. We can't replace anybody. Our offensive line was already thin. They didn't have much depth to their roster already because of the salary cap situation. So if you pay a Brock Purdy, even with getting rid of Debo, and you don't pay more the linemen and some of these other guys, if you pay Brock Purdy the wrong number, I think that'll be the end of the run that the 49ers have had going since 2019 when they went to that Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. If you pay him the wrong amount, because I almost already thought that with the Brandon Ayuk deal. I never thought Brandon Ayuk was worth $120 million. I thought that was crazy. I thought he pressured them into doing it, and they fell for it. But he got it, and they ended up paying him. I thought Debo was a better piece for them than Brandon Ayuk is. And now then Brandon Ayuk gets hurt. He's on a big contract. You got to dump off Debo. Now you got to pay Purdy coming up. 30 to 35 million. I think that's a win for the 49ers if they can keep him around that 30 to 35 million dollar range.
Yeah. I don't see a situation where he plays long term for that 30 to 35 million.
Yeah, I see like a 3-year deal.
Yeah.
Until we can figure something out,
Yeah.
because that might be the end of that window anyway.
I think three years 100. See, if you go 3 years 100 and you extend it, so that means that'll make him 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you get to give him give him half of it up front.
Mm-hmm.
Give him half of it up front, and then understanding that if he outperforms the contract, you'll renegotiate with 2 years left on his deal.
Yeah.
But because, what I think with quarterbacks now, and this kind of the situation that they kind of have the team over a barrel in, is that a quarterback going into his last year and say he's making way under market,
Mm-hmm.
will he just sit out?
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
We could end up potentially seeing that. Yeah.
Because if a guy sits out, if a guy's making way on the market and he sits out, it's really, as a quarterback, it's not really worth going on the field like that. And get hurt.
It's not. And as a team, you're handcuffed. You have to pay him. You can't. This isn't going into the season without. We saw. You saw the Cowboys panic when Emmett held out and they lost the first couple games. Hey, hold on, let's go ahead and get him paid. You can't do that with a quarterback. That'll throw off potentially your season.
Yeah, because you got practice, you got OTAs, you got all that stuff.
You have to get a quarterback paid. So if a quarterback starts sitting out, that's why most of the time we see them try to get those deals in early with those extensions outside of Dallas with Dak and a couple of other guys. Most of the time they try to get that deal done because he's got to be in here. We got to be a cohesive unit by the time week 1 kicks off. We got to get through preseason and OTAs and training camp with a quarterback in there. If the quarterback's sitting out, yeah. That's a huge deal.
The other deal is with the is you can't, until you get Purdy taken care of, you can't deal with your wide receiver situation now.
Mm-hmm.
There's some great options out in the wide receiver market. You sent me a text.
Yeah.
Sharing with me the wide receivers that are available.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some really good guys out there that probably could help my team.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. You think about Stephon Diggs is out there, and Keenan Allen is out there, Tyler Lockett, and I forget the last one, Amari Cooper. Yeah. All guys that I still think got a lot in the tank left. We just saw Cooper Kupp, who's in that age range of receivers.
That's what I wanted. I wanted to kind of talk to you about that.
Yeah.
Overall, what do you think trading Geno? What they essentially did was trade Geno and DK Metcalf for Sam Darnold and Cooper Kupp.
See, saying it out loud makes it seem like, man, what are y'all doing? Y'all got rid of DK and then Geno was solid, but when you look at it, okay, we can get similar production out of Cooper Kupp. We can certainly get I think so. I think DK is a workout warrior. Honestly, DK Metcalf plays the opposite of his size. He's huge, but when he's playing,
have you looked at his stats?
I've seen his stats, and I'm wondering why his stats aren't more. You've been the number 1 receiver there for X amount of years, and you only have a certain production level. And they had to throw him the ball last year. Tyler Lockett got hurt. Jackson Smith and Jigba missed a significant amount of time as well out there. So I thought that DK should have put up more numbers. And I like DK Metcalf. I think he's a good receiver, but there was a reason why when him and A.J. Brown were both at Ole Miss and they both came out in the draft, everybody was like, how was DK? How did he? I think DK had like 500 yards or something they last year there. And they were like, how did this guy only run a 4.3 and he do this? I think his production has never matched what people expect of him.
So what I think, I think DK is kind of like misunderstood in this regard. He doesn't have a lot of junk in his game.
Yeah.
But what he can do, there's not many humans that can stop it.
Yeah, no, that's true.
The
size is a real thing.
I put him in the same category of, and follow me on this.
Mm-hmm.
If you take the yards that Terrell Owens got on slant routes, and then what do you call them things where they just throw to the ball real quick and you run?
Yeah.
If you take those yards away, Terrell Owens is not a Hall of Fame wide receiver.
That's true.
You understand what
That's
I'm
true.
saying?
I
But the
agree with
point is, you
He
do
did it.
have to cover the slant route. And you
See,
do.
But that's my problem with DK. I want him to play like T.O., but he doesn't. He is a hard
Well,
guy
they
to bring
don't use
down.
him. You know, my deal is they don't use him like T.O.
That-
They don't use him like that.
That's true. They don't use him like that.
They
but
don't run enough screens with him. They don't run enough slants with him. You know,
I think he's going to get used better in Pittsburgh, depending on who their
Absolutely.
quarterback situation is. But whether it was the system or whatever it is, DK Metcalf has underperformed for how big this dude is. 230, 6'5", 6'3",
but I think
6'4".
he's gotten 1,000 pretty much every year, right?
But what is 1,000 for receivers right now?
I mean, he had it ain't like he's been with Hall of Fame quarter. Well,
I mean,
guess
Geno is a lot better than what a lot of guys have done. So I mean, it ain't like he's played with the worst quarterbacks. He played with Russell Wilson and Geno Smith.
I mean,
he's had some.
But anybody that the Seattle's have had as an offense coordinator, they're not known for being exceptional OCs or anything like that. When you look at Terrell Owens, he's played for some of the best guys you can play for.
Sure.
You know,
for sure.
He played for Andy Reid. He played for Moose.
See, but
You know?
T.O.'s got that. I know I'm saying that DK don't. I don't even want to say that, but for whatever reason, his production, his best year was 1,300 yards.
Yeah.
That should be a consistent thing. He's only been over 1,000 yards 3 times in 6 years. He doesn't put out the type of production
You
that
just
I would expect.
more from him.
From
Gotcha.
a guy that big, I'm expecting, man, can I get 1,300, 1,400 yards at least a couple of times out of it? So for whatever the reason was, I'm expecting them to do more in Pittsburgh because I'm expecting them to do those slants and those digs and those drag routes to come across the middle and make somebody come and hit him because you're not just going to hit the dude.
Yeah.
So, I like I said, the production-wise, I think it'll be similar. I think DK has a higher ceiling, obviously, than Cooper. The biggest one is, what is Sam Darnold going to do outside of a Shanahan-style offense? Now, it is still a Shanahan-style offense because they just went and got Clint Kubiak, who was supposed to be the new hot guy in the market the first, 4 or 5 weeks of the season out there in New Orleans because they were blowing people out. And then their season derailed completely and the whole coaching staff gets fired. But now he's in Seattle. He's got a Sam Darnold. He's got a Jackson Smith and Jigba, who led them in receiving last year with 1,200 yards. He's got a Cooper Kupp, who's feeling like he's got a chip on his shoulder. He didn't want to leave L.A. They were trying to get rid of him. And that's how he ended up in Seattle and stayed in that division. What is their new team going to look like with those new signings? That's what I'm interested to see because as of right now, I don't know.
So here's the interesting thing about Cooper Kupp, and this would have put me on pause.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at his open rate on Pro Football Focus.
Yeah. Separation rate, yeah.
Separation rate. He has the lowest separation rate in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at the fact that Sam Darnold was throwing to one of the guys with the largest separation rate, which was
great point.
Justin Jefferson.
It's a great point.
Does he have the precision to deliver the ball to a guy like Sam Darnold?
And Jackson Smith and Jigba is the same kind of – him and Cooper Kupp are similar type players. They're not fast. They're great route runners. Not a lot of separation gets between them and the DBs. Great hands. But will Sam Darnold be able to facilitate with that?
And we know that Sam Darnold is not a timing quarterback.
Mm.
He's a guy that holds the ball. He wants to see the receiver open, and he wants to throw it. Now, with Justin Jefferson and his height, and then Atkinson,
Addison, yeah.
Addison.
Mm-hmm.
Those are guys. Now, Addison, I don't know what he does. I don't know if he pushes off whatever. But whenever he catches the ball coming out of his break, he's wide ass open.
Wide open. Butt naked, as they would say.
Yeah, I mean, he must got super breaks or something like that because he's open. So anyway, my point is in saying that, and that's one of the things that in the playoff games is they decided they weren't going to try to cover the guys man on man. They were going to get in that zone. They were just going to pressure Sam Darnold and see can he make the right decision and
do
turn
nothing.
out he turned into the old Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
Now a lot of that had to do with protection and I get it.
Darisaw got hurt. He was a huge piece for them. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, he looked like the old Sam Darnold. I hope, for Seattle's, I hope for Seattle's fate, that he doesn't return to the old Sam Darnold. I hope he plays more like the guy that played at Minnesota the first 15 weeks of the season. But, He's not going to have Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, that's the biggest part. You're not going to throw to
And he's not
arguably the best receiver
Jordan
in the league,
Addison, I think,
and
yeah.
arguably the second, and arguably one of the best number 2s in the league, in Jordan Addison. That's not there anymore. And Aaron Jones, who played like one of the best running backs in the league last year, that you had in the backfield. So that's a completely different thing. Kevin O'Connell has proven that he knows how to scheme up offense. You're not going to have Kevin O'Connell. I kind of like Clint Kubiak. He comes from that same ilk of the Shanahan-style tree, coming from his dad and Gary Kubiak. So it'll be a similar offense. But, man, Jefferson is a huge...
What do the Vikings do?
And they're one of those huge question marks going into this draft for me, along with the Steelers, the Giants, and the Raiders. Those are some of the teams I think of when I'm just looking at quarterbacks of how do we address this? Okay, obviously they got J.J. McCarthy they took in the top 10 last year, so they want to be able to showcase him. Is he ready for that? We don't know, because not only did he not play last year, but he was hurt the whole year, so he didn't get the practice reps either.
Surgeries.
Yeah, he didn't even get the practice reps. So now your first time seeing NFL speed is going to be this year. Who is a veteran? We talked about it yesterday on here with Wayne, and he said they got to go and find a veteran quarterback that they can come in and help mentor this guy if he is going to be the guy for you. Now, Kevin O'Connell, like I said, he's had success with Kirk Cousins, had success with Sam Darnold. He had limited success with Josh Dobbs in a couple games that he played.
You know, for me, this situation is pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm O'Donnell,
Mm-hmm.
I try to get Cousins from Atlanta.
Mm.
Great bridge option.
Great bridge option.
He won't require a lot of money because, you know, Atlanta just paid him $10 million last week.
Got plenty.
You know, he got plenty.
Yeah.
He got paid $50 as a signing bonus. Atlanta paid him $10 million
Keeping him on that roster bonus
last week.
Mm-hmm.
You may have to, and then Kirk, if he wants to play hardball about it, he has absolutely no leverage other than they have to pay him out the
remaining of his contract.
Yeah, but I mean that's really no. If you want to play, that's really no leverage.
Yeah.
You know, he was hoping, you know, he wouldn't talk to him all the way up till they paid him the signing bonus. So he thought he was gonna get cut.
Yeah.
And they ended up paying him.
Yeah.
And so now he's kind of in a pickle
stuck,
where,
yeah.
well, he's not. He was hoping he could get cut where he could choose his team.
Exactly.
Well, they're not gonna let him choose his team.
Mm.
They're gonna get something for him if he leaves early. And I think Minnesota could possibly be a place for him to land, be a great bridge quarterback. He knows the offense.
Yeah.
He's
definitely knows the offense. Yeah.
You know, he could be a mentor to J.J. McCarthy.
Do you think that's something Kirk would want to do? Because I don't think he really.
Where can he go play?
New York, Pittsburgh. Tennessee
So
potentially.
here's what I'll say for those you know, if you're gonna, you should have kept Kenny Pickett if you wanted Kirk.
Okay.
if you go sign Kirk, you should have kept Kenny Pickett.
I agree.
So I think what happened to Pittsburgh, what really happened to Pittsburgh, and I miscalculated what they were doing, is that they played Russell Wilson so they could really invest in
Justin Fields.
Mm-hmm. And Justin Fields' agent had a ram in the bush. He had somebody who wanted him. And therefore, because all this was, now it made sense to why when Russell was struggling, they didn't put Fields back in, because ultimately they wanted to re-sign Fields, but they didn't want to do it at a.
Yeah, if he come back in and plays great, now you got to pay him.
Now you got over
$40-50 million.
Yeah, you got him over a barrel.
Yeah, and that makes sense. That makes sense. But I think Fields felt slighted by that decision, by them not putting him back in, because I was already 6-2 when then y'all benched me, and then this dude starts going out there and playing sorry, and it's like, okay, I still can't get my job back after that, and I think that kind of hurt that relationship between the Steelers.
You think
and
ultimately that did it?
I think that played a part in it. I think him getting $20 million from New York also helped, or $40 million from New York also helped. But I think that did play a part. I think he felt like, okay, y'all benched me for no reason, which they did. They benched him for no reason. He was 6-2 on there. They say, oh, he was winning games with no touchdowns. Well, Russell Wilson came in. He had a couple good games, and he turned right back into Russell Wilson that we knew he was going to be. He thought at that point, okay, this dude, they finished the season, I think, losing their last 5 games. So, like, you're not going to give me even a chance to come back in and try to work some magic or do something because we were winning when I was in.
So, that whole Pittsburgh thing was weird to me. Because to me, they didn't bench Fields. Usually they bench quarterbacks because of they're not being effective.
Yeah.
To me, they didn't bench Fields for not being effective. They benched Fields because the wide receivers core was disgruntled because they weren't getting the opportunities.
Pickens.
Right? So they put Russell in to get more. So, yeah, you get more targets, but ultimately you end up having the same problem.
You turn right back into disgruntled by the end of the season.
Yeah.
You turn right back into it.
And so, and I think, Sam, really, Tomlinson was like, you guys, wide receiving core, y'all asked for Russell.
Yeah.
Y'all gonna live with Russell.
I can see that being the case.
Y'all asked for Russell.
This is what y'all wanted.
Y'all came in here and say we should be getting more out of the passing game. We should be doing more. We winning, but none of us are. We don't feel like we part of the game. Guys taking off on wide open wide receivers. I remember it's just how things go. They pointed out where he missed a 15-yard wide receiver that was open 50 yards down the field, and he had a 30-yard run. What's the point of pointing that out?
Yeah.
Because
exactly.
He surely guy was open at 15 yards at the top of the drop, but
30-yard run. Like,
and it was in the crunch time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe he didn't want to risk the throw at that moment,
Exactly.
and he wanted to just get down the field. So my point is saying that I think Fields not being a traditional quarterback, the team not being willing to commit to his skill set,
yes,
makes for a difficult situation, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
because I think Fields, much like Lamar Jackson, much like the guy from Washington,
Jaden Daniels.
Daniels, they have a certain skill set that makes them a dominant running quarterback.
For sure.
And you have to commit resources to creating a system that protects them. And
you got to build your offense around
makes them a serious threat.
Yeah, and I don't know if the Pittsburgh Steelers were willing to go, which they have Arthur Smith. You think that's the route they would want to go. Arthur Smith's offenses are usually like that. When he was in Tennessee with Derrick Henry and all those guys, Ryan Tannehill, when he was in Atlanta and he tried to bring in Mariota and recreate some of that, you would think, hey, let's try to move towards that, but they ultimately decided.
Well, like I said, I think ultimately, and I'll say this. Ultimately, I think what unraveled Pittsburgh was their inability to run the ball.
Yes.
Like with Fields, you got to realize he was like 40 or 50% of their run game.
Yeah, he was.
And so when you take him out, you really don't have any other option now but try to pass the ball because Najee's not running the ball. The other kid,
Jalen
Warren can't really get loose either. And it's not because, and I don't think because they're bad backs. They just don't have
the scheme was bad. The offensive line was
absolutely,
bad.
Absolutely. I think he brought a system over. Arthur Smith brought a system over that was very successful. That stretch zone system worked really well with Derrick Henry.
Yep.
But Najee Harris is not Derrick Henry, nor is Warren.
That's what got him fired in Atlanta because he tried to do the same thing in that stretch zone offense. Didn't work in Atlanta when he was there before they got this current regime. So the Steelers are one of the biggest question marks, in my opinion, going into this draft, going into the rest of this offseason as they start to pick up some of these later veteran guys. Yeah, they went and got DK Metcalf to come out there and join them, and that's cool. But who's throwing the ball? Like, there's nobody on the roster right now that's capable of being a quarterback. So do they attack in the draft? The guy that I said was going to be the guy, And I think Jackson Dart can actually play, but I always say they always find a random white guy to start boosting their potential as we get closer and closer to the draft. A Will Levis, Ryan Tannehill, one of these type of guys, a Mitch Trubisky, they just start getting boosted. I think Jackson Dart is going to go late in the first.
I think ultimately what's going to happen after Aaron Rodgers finishes his nature walks and his darkness sabbaticals and whatever else he does in his free time, he's going to sign with the Steelers. I don't see
agree.
this. I just see that happening.
Yeah,
I don't see a situation where it doesn't make sense for him to go to New York.
No, not at all. None of those locations.
I don't think it
Vegas,
makes sense.
New York.
I don't think it makes sense for him to. What's the other place I kept trying to think of? It's New York and Cleveland is out there.
Cleveland,
as well.
Tennessee, New York.
Yeah.
Vegas before they got Geno. I didn't think any of those were actual real options for Aaron Rodgers. At this point in his career, he's a 4-time MVP. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He don't want to end his career.
I wouldn't even went to
games.
Seattle if it was open. When it was open.
No, because what are you going to do in Seattle?
Yeah. Now, I think ideally speaking, from a just a pie in the sky dream standpoint, I think he'd like to play in like a Shanahan system or something like that. But I
think so too.
I don't think that's gonna open up for him.
I don't think it will either. I always thought the ultimate pair was going to be him and Kyle Shanahan getting together some type of way, and him being the quarterback of the 49ers. And I don't think that's going to be an option. I don't think they want to wait around.
He may not even be mobile enough for Shanahan at this point.
No, not coming off this Achilles. Not at 40 years old. I don't think he can move around to really give that threat of the play action like they need, like they give off right now. So the Steelers are his run option. I agree with you on that. Cam Hayward on this podcast, longtime Steeler, I think last night or maybe a couple days ago, said we're not waiting around for this dude. If he wants to be a Steeler, the pitch for him to come be a Steeler is, do you want to be a Steeler? We're not going to do all this extra. We're not going to go all out. And he said, I'm not going to any darkness retreats or nothing like that to go and get Aaron Rodgers. So the Steelers know the noise. They know that Aaron Rodgers is their best option. Aaron Rodgers probably knows the Steelers is their best option. But some of those guys in that locker room, they're not going to. Cam Hayward, he's been there for a long time. He's not going to sit here and try to acquiesce to all of the things that Aaron Rodgers wants, especially since I think Cam Hayward was on that team that Aaron Rodgers beat in the Super Bowl. That might have something to do with it, too. They don't want to wait around for that.
Do you think at this point, and kind of move the conversation to teams that need quarterbacks, you mentioned Tennessee, you mentioned the New York Giants, you mentioned Cleveland.
Yep, Pittsburgh.
Those three teams you just mentioned are at the top of the draft.
Yeah.
This past week, I was spring breaking with the fam. I wasn't on a lot of sports news, but this weekend, which I was trying to track a lot of it, a lot of the Shador criticism has kind of tailed off.
Yeah.
Now, do you think teams are resigned to the fact that they're probably going to, because of the quarterback situation, teams like the Giants may have to draft Shador at the top of the draft?
I think so.
In order to have a viable quarterback this upcoming season?
I think so. I think we're going to see – I think the Cam Ward of Tennessee is starting to become more and more of a real possibility. I think they're just seeing how the quarterback market has gone and how the current regime wants to stay there with Callahan and all those guys. They want to stay there, so they got to make a splash. Will Levis is not that guy. I think we're going to see Cam going to Tennessee. I think Shador is either going to go to the Cleveland and New York one is so tricky. If there were other teams there at 2 and 3, I would have said Shador will be gone by 2 or 3. But with Cleveland and New York being there, Cleveland mainly, I think they want Cam Ward. So if they can find a way to get some type of deal with Tennessee or just wait to see if Tennessee doesn't pick them, they want Cam Ward. New York, I think there's a real possibility of New York taking Jackson Dart. I really have seen I'm watching these mock drafts every day from different guys, and Jackson Dart's name, and rightfully so, because I think he had the best combine performance out of all the quarterbacks there. His name has risen from second round, from late second round to early second round to late first round. Now we're talking about mid first round, and now we're even talking about teams like the New Orleans Saints at number 9, thinking about taking a guy like Jackson Dart. So So I think this quarterback market is gonna similar to what we saw last year when everybody was saying, McCarthy, he's a late first round guy, or Michael Penix, he'll maybe mid first round guy, and then we saw 5 guys go in the top 12 because Bo Nix went at 12. I think we could see something similar to that, but those teams at the very top, I think they go ahead and get a quarterback out early. I think Tennessee, Cleveland, and New York might all be in the market for a quarterback.
So I look at coaching situations as well as where they are in the draft.
Yep.
Right. So let's take at the top of the draft. You got Tennessee.
Yep.
That coach is in his second year.
Yeah, Callahan's in the second year, I believe. Yeah.
He drafts a rookie. Does he get to finish out his tenure?
No, I don't think he finishes out his tenure, regardless who he drafts.
Okay.
I don't think he's that good of a coach.
So you got to look at that. You got to look at that.
Yeah. I agree.
But he has a little runway.
He does.
He has a little runway.
He does.
Then I think second is Cleveland.
Stefanski doesn't have much at all, I believe.
Doesn't have much. I really don't know how much runway he has. But whatever the situation is with him, I don't think they go into the season paying Shador or Cam $35-40 million and also paying Deshaun Watson. Just doesn't make
because they just traded for Kenny Pickett, I believe, too, as well. So I think Cleveland might be, kind of hedging their bet there and saying, yeah, we'll get a bridge quarterback this year. Let's just get a generational guy. Let's get a Travis Hunter. Let's get an Abdul Carter and get him in the fold and just figure out from there because maybe from the jump, I don't think Cleveland thought that Cam or Shador was their guy, regardless of the quarterback, of their quarterback situation with Deshaun Watson. So in that case, hey, they traded for Pickett. Let's get Pickett out here, and let's get a Travis or an Abdul Carter.
5 years later, if Deshaun Watson can play a little bit, he's gonna be a bargain.
Yeah,
if he can play a little bit.
Yeah. But
who
knows?
Who knows though? So they got a bridge guy. They got Kenny Pickett. I didn't know that. I wasn't.
Yeah, they traded Dorian Thompson Kelly or whatever is DKT or DTK. They traded him to the Eagles. So he's gone to the Eagles.
Oh, he fits.
Kenny Pickett.
He fits.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like the Eagles feel like he fits way more than Kenny Pickett did in that system because he can come in and just try to replicate the things Jalen Hurts do if they do have to play a backup like they did last year.
Yes.
At
DRC.
some point in the season.
Robinson something.
Yeah. I figured.
Yeah.
But he's headed to Philly and they went and got Kenny Pickett out there.
So gotcha. So then you're left with. So then you have at third you have the Giants.
New York Giants. Yep.
And Daboll.
Yep. Who was on his very last leg, as well as Joe Shane.
So okay, let me ask you this. If I'm Daboll, I want a rookie quarterback for this reason. Maybe I can get my runway extended.
I agree.
But if I bring, and this is what I didn't understand, if I lobby for Aaron Rodgers and it doesn't work, I'm gone.
Out of there. I think he's scared of the unknown. I think it is a gamble, taking a young guy and drafting him there. And what if he just struggles his first year, even though he's got a lot of potential? You're still gone. But that's why they were going the most aggressive in the offseason of those veteran quarterbacks. They were extremely aggressive for Matt Stafford. They were trying to get Aaron Rodgers, and I think Aaron just however somehow communicated with them like that's not a possibility. But they were heavy in the veteran quarterback market. They wanted a guy that could come in and win them.
I was even hearing
games.
Kirk Cousins' name.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins was a name in there too. Because they want a guy that can get them to 9 wins, just so you could say to the owner, like, look, we're doing something. Just give me another year. I think if he gets a rookie and they go win 4 wins, hey, well, he's fired in the middle of the season. I don't think he even makes it to the end of the season if they go out there and struggle with a rookie quarterback. If it hits, that's a whole other thing.
The one thing that's peculiar to me about the Giants situation is that I couldn't trust a guy who let Saquon go
Yeah,
to the
thank
jet to like Joe Shane. I couldn't.
You can't trust him at
Do
all.
you, and as an organization, do you turn the personnel over to Daniel Dayball? Because Joe Shane is a joke at this point.
Yeah,
He's
he
the
is.
laughing stock of the
is.
NFL, and I think that's led to a lot of the lack of being able to close the deal.
Yeah,
You know.
I agree. I agree with that. They don't have. There's really no trust there at this point. We talked about it. We watched the owner put his hands in his head, like, I can't believe I just let this guy talk me into doing this and saying this right now.
Yeah.
So the trust, I think the trust was gone then. After seeing the Eagles win the Super Bowl, I still have no idea how these guys have their job. Still, right now, I'm still confused on why or how they have their job. I guess I kind of understand Dabo a little bit because he was supposed to be this QB whisperer. And in the first year, they did have some success, and they even went to the playoffs. So I get it. But he struggled since then. Joe Shane, I don't get it at all. I have no idea how he still has his job.
Well, I
You let
think
your
I
best
think
player
Malik,
go.
I think the Malik Neighbors pick, when a lot of people supposedly took Malik off their board, they chose.
I don't think that was that hard of a choice, but I get it. That was a home run. You hit a home run drafting Malik Neighbors.
But the way it all unfolded, that's why Hard Knocks is such a risk.
That's why people don't want it. A lot of teams you don't see on there.
And being transparent,
Exactly.
it's such a risk.
It is.
Because one thing I will give Joe Shane credit for is that he gave what many feel was a really honest assessment. Was, we don't play running backs. We can get two mediocre guys and create a Hall of Fame level talent. And I'm like, where does that? That's how it's been. That's how, to me, that's how personnel people have been leaking to the media of how they view running back.
Yeah.
Right? As fans, we know that you can't take Slayton and what's the other guy from Arian Foster, put those guys together. That don't make Earl Campbell.
No.
Not
at all.
Not
at all.
You can't put Julius Jones and Marion Barber, the late Marion Barber, together and create Tony Dorsett or Emmitt Smith.
No, you can't.
That's not how that works. That's not how it works. And even the best tandems. I remember a couple years ago, Atlanta had a couple guys, Algiers and
that was last year. Tyler Algier and Robinson.
No, they had a guy. Well, maybe it was back when Shanahan was the.
Oh yeah,
coach.
Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman. They both almost went for 1,000.
Yeah. But even those two guys don't create what I consider a really good young running back, which is Bijan.
Yeah, Bijan Robinson. Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Like that's not how this.
No, you can't just take numbers and crunch them. This is football. You can't just take numbers and crunch them and make it happen.
You made a very good point just then. Mm-hmm. Those two guys, Coleman and
Devontae Freeman.
Mm-hmm. That's not one Saquon Barkley.
No. They still didn't. Between the two of them, they didn't rush for 2,000 like Saquon just rushed for.
Yeah.
Like Bijan's got the potential to rush for.
Yeah.
So
So those are things that the NFL personnel people has been leaking through the media, and I was glad to see that was a real sentiment by an actual personnel person.
Yeah.
And I was even happier that it blew up in his damn face.
Because that don't make no sense. I couldn't believe what I was watching when I sat there and watched it. I was like, there's no way he just said we're gonna get Devin Singletary and draft a guy, a receiver, Tracy, then turn him into a running back and say we should be able to get about 1,600 yards out of these guys. It'll be just like Saquon, and that's exactly what you get.
And the thing about it, guys, like when we look at those historical guys, my favorite all-time running back, Eric Dixon,
yes,
Earl Campbell's, Emmitt Smith's, Tony Dorsett's, and now I'll put Saquon Barkley in that when you talk about impact.
For sure.
The impact of those guys is limitless. Like it's infinite, and it spills over into other aspects of your team when you got a guy. And again, the other thing about a great running back is this. It's great that they can make the big runs and they can score the points and the touchdowns. But what I think they really come into play is when it comes time to close out a football game.
Yes, that's the most important time. We watched Tennessee go to the AFC Championship with Ryan Tannehill as a quarterback because they could close out every single game. They had a closer. Just like a closer is important in baseball, just like a closer is important in basketball.
And like I say, here's my guys. You know, we have. I'm a Dak guy. Dak is my guy. But I just you know, if Dak had a guy like Derrick Henry to hand the ball off to, or Saquon Barkley to hand the ball off to, I think Dak goes from the upper mediocre, if that's a thing. I think he goes from upper mediocre to an elite quarterback with a elite running game. I believe that. Now I may be wrong.
I don't think you're wrong because they ended up fizzling out in the playoffs, but even just looking back at now seeing this iteration of the Cowboys, that Dak and Zeke combo when they first got in the league was electric. Zeke was the most electric back probably in the NFL until Saquon Barkley came into the NFL out of Penn State a few years later. He was a game changer. I always think back to the play of the screen against the Pittsburgh Steelers. They ended up taking like 67 yards, and I was watching it like, man, this dude is just a complete game. He's a game changer. You can get in the ball at any moment, and he's a game closer. He closed. They were winning 12 games a lot of those times because he's closing the game. Okay, we're only up by 3, but it's 6 minutes left. Oh, y'all not getting the ball back. Because we got Zeke and we got Zach Martin and Tyrone Smith and Freeman and all the boys on the front line.
And the one thing about Dak, he doesn't do it as much now, but I think it could come back if he had an effective running game. Is Dak could close? I mean, Dak could close the game out, or in the red zone, he becomes a runner. Then we're really dangerous. But without a adequate, we haven't had an adequate running game. In at least 3 years. To be honest with you, we try. You know, matter of fact, and I'll give Dak some grace on this. We weren't the same team ever since Tony Pollard snapped his ankle. I don't know if that was a playoff game or the game before.
I think it was right before
the playoff game.
Yeah, because he was hobbled in that. Because y'all lost to the 49ers that year, I believe.
He hadn't been. What I'm saying, we hadn't had. No, we had him and Zeke that year. Right. And he was spelling Zeke, and so, but when he snapped his ankle, that sent us to the playoffs with just Zeke as our number one back, and we weren't able to do much. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that's the game that Brock Purdy beat us 13-10.
Yeah, it is.
If I'm not mistaken,
that's the one where he ran out of time. Trying to snap the ball in the last second.
And it changed it, and people won't, people may not agree with me, but I think that Pollard being injured that year changed our offense.
Oh, it did, for sure. Because that extended Zeke's career, even though it didn't last long, but you didn't see all the deficiencies of Zeke because they had a guy that could come in after Zeke gets 6 snaps in a row. TP is going to come in, and now it's a completely different type of zone game they can run.
I've seen them stuff Zeke 3 times in a row. Him come in on 3rd down. They run a screen to Pollard, and Pollard takes it to the house. You know what I mean? Like we had options in the running game.
Zeke had 12 touchdowns that year. Tony Pollard had 9 and led the team in rushing with 1,000 yards. That was, you're getting 2,000 yards out of 2 backs. That's maybe what Joe Shane was talking about. But that's high level production from the running back position.
Yeah, but neither one of those guys were rookies. A rookie that you were converting to wide receiver. You were converting the guy from wide receiver,
to running back.
So and then for all intents and purposes, those were high level running backs. Zeke was on the tail end of his career, certainly, but those were high level running backs, and with at the time, it made Dak when everybody was on board. It made Dak a much better quarterback in situations where he had a running game where they almost ran for 220. I want to say they ran for 2,400 yards that year. They hadn't had a year.
The total yards was just under 2,300, 2,298.
So We hadn't had a year like that
Yeah.
since.
That was just 3 years ago. But
Yeah.
that's how quick stuff could change. Before we switch over and talk about some NBA and go to talk about these brackets as it's March Madness here.
Okay.
Before we go over to that, last question about the NFL. Cowboys signed a couple running backs. What's your thoughts on that? Does that change anything on their perspective going into the draft? Because those are two guys that I like. I like Miles Sanders as a third down back, and I like Javonte Williams as just a straight hill, a downhill runner. As far as what those two guys can
We have
bring.
to be able to block it. With those guys, we have to be able to block it.
Yeah.
If we can block it, I think those guys can be very productive.
Mm-hmm.
If we can't block it, I don't think they're. Let me be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're better than Rico, both of them.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
I think they're better than Rico. So our running game should be better.
Yeah.
Will it be enough? I don't know.
That's the question. Will it be enough? I wonder, does that change in the way that they approach the draft? I don't know if they were going after a running back in the draft, but does that change the approach any going into the draft of? Because at this point, I said maybe Genty. People were talking about that, but I don't even think Genty's going to be there at this point. I think Genty's probably going to the Raiders since they decided to get Geno Smith. I think he'll be out there in the Raiders, but an Omarion Hampton or Travion Henderson.
I think Genty is a guy that somebody's going to jump up and get.
Yeah, I think he's going to go at 6 or 7.
I think if you're, and it's just my opinion,
mm-hmm.
if you're Washington, do you jump up and get a guy like Genty?
It wouldn't be a bad move to jump up and get a guy like Genty.
You know what I mean?
To solidify that. I mean, to really solidify that running game.
Do you jump up and get Genty? Do you give up something to get a guy like Genty? Because they need defense, right?
But Dan Quinn is known for getting production out of not the biggest name. I mean, did it last year. They had no big names on the defense.
Well, and they brought a lot of guys in.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So do you jump up and get a guy like Genty? Because I think the running back situation, if they're going to build around
Jaden Daniels,
they're going to have to address it.
Yeah.
And not address it with just a guy.
Yeah.
Because you saw how having the guy worked for Jalen Hurts and it worked for Lamar Jackson last year.
Yeah.
It kind of changed.
It changes a lot.
Yeah.
From having a guy to having, like you said, the guy.
Yeah.
Like we're better. We know every game he's good for 100.
Yeah.
So that changes everything. And then you add that with a Dan. I mean, that would be scary.
They can't load up on Jaden Daniels if you have a guy like Genty.
Then you bring in a Debo into that offense.
I didn't realize through Pro Football Focus, he's broken more tackles than any running back in the past 5 years.
Yeah.
Coming out of college.
Definitely. I think he
now,
had.
Now, a lot of people said, that's competition, but I always thought, and this is just me, breaking tackles isn't a function of necessarily competition. Breaking tackles is a function of your ability.
And that's why I think he's rated so high. And that's why I've rated, at least for myself, have rated him as the highest running back coming out in this one, because I do think competition is a huge factor. Everybody was saying, it's the best season ever. And I'm like, I think if Derrick Henry was playing for Boise State, he would have did all those same records. I think if Melvin Gordon was playing for Boise State.
Those are top-level guys.
No, that's what I'm saying. But his ability to break tackles is why I rate him as that top, because I don't care who you playing against. If you're making 20 guys miss per game, you're really good. I don't care who's out there trying to tackle you. You're really good at football. So, yeah, Genty to Washington could be a complete game changer. But the Cowboys, they got those two running backs. It's going to be interesting to see. They're sitting at pick 12. Do they get a guy like Will Johnson? Do they maybe jump a Shamar Stewart, who had a great combine as well, coming out of Texas A&M, to be another D in there to replace Tank Lord? They got options going into the draft. So I think them getting some running backs gave them some more options of what they can do in this draft. So we'll see how that goes. Folks, it's March Madness here. Actually getting ready to tip off as it starts tonight with the play-in games. Those games are getting ready to go on. Before we jump over to some March Madness, we'll break down at least some of these games in the first round of these brackets and let you know what we're thinking about this. You touched on a little bit earlier the Los Angeles Lakers and them being able to sustain some level of success without LeBron being there. And the latest NBA power rankings, I think, had Cleveland at the top, Boston Oklahoma City at 2, Boston right there at 3. Obviously, those are the top 3 because they got the best 3 records. But the next 2, and I don't know if it's updated since last night, were the Lakers and then the Warriors. Are those the 2 most dangerous teams coming out of the West? Because we know OKC is right now the big bad wolf in the West, but who else is? Well, you're so used to the West being 2 or 3 other guys. The Denver Nuggets, I think, proved a lot last night by going out there and beating up on Golden State without Jokic or Murray. But the Lakers are right there in that mix. Golden State, before they lost last night, was 12-1 when they got Jimmy. So who are those guys in that West?
So this is what I really feel about the West.
Mm-hmm.
No team in the West will be able to beat both the Lakers and the Nuggets.
Yeah.
You know, like if
including Oklahoma City. Do you include that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is, if you line it up, if you put Oklahoma City first game, you know, if they have to beat the Lakers and the Nuggets, they're not going to be able to do it. Houston, they have to beat the Lakers and the Nuggets.
Mm-hmm.
They aren't going to be able to do it. Memphis, same situation.
Yep.
They're not going to be able to do it. So that puts the Lakers and the Nuggets in a pretty sweet situation as long as they don't have to play each
other. Yeah.
You understand? So I think that's their kind of. I think right now, if you look at it, they play it. They end up playing each other in the first round. I think that's nightmare for both of them.
Yeah, neither one of them want to play each other in the first round. That's for sure.
I think
Denver's sitting at 3 right now, but they got a 2-game jump on Los Angeles. Right now, LA will be playing Memphis, and Denver will be playing Golden State, who they also probably I know they feel like they could beat them, and I think they'll beat them. But you don't want to play Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler in the first round.
I don't think so. To me, I think that's a great matchup for them. As a matter of fact, I honestly believe that the Memphis matchup would be a more difficult matchup for the Lakers than the Golden State matchup
for the Lakers.
For
Denver.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I ultimately think it's just a bad matchup for the Denver Nuggets. I mean, Golden State.
Yeah, Denver's their worst matchup.
Yeah,
because you got a big.
It's a bad matchup.
It's what they don't. The one thing they don't have is a big.
What Jokic doesn't have to play any defense.
No, you don't have to guard anybody. You're gonna put in a random guy at 5. You're gonna put Looney in. Then you're gonna put Draymond at the 5. I don't have to do anything.
Yeah, you don't have to. He doesn't have to guard anybody.
Nope.
Whereas I think one of the things the Lakers have, and I've seen other teams use it, that you just using the big man as a means to roll to the bucket and finish.
Yeah, this is how Dallas got to the finals last year.
Is a way to get Jokic.
Yeah.
Take advantage of Jokic, so to speak.
Because you have to guard. We're gonna make you do something.
Yeah,
you're not putting Draymond Green in the pick and roll.
Even the other night when a LeBron-less and Luka-less
took him to the wire.
And what they were literally doing, they were picking and rolling and then throwing the ball backwards.
Yeah.
And letting Jackson Hayes and several other big men just finish at the cup because they were able to beat.
You got to do something
to the cup.
You got to do something. I mean? You got to pick. You either gonna come up on this pick or you gonna give up this dunk. You're gonna have to pick one of the two. And I think that's why the Lakers. That's in my opinion why Denver doesn't want to play the Lakers. Because
I think that's a total. I think it could go either way.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It could go either way, but it's certainly a nightmare. And Luka is a hard cover for Murray. Like it's a no cover.
Yeah. He don't. Come on. Murray don't want to play against your first because it was easy. Oh, okay. I get to shoot these shots and I'm gonna finish when it's D'Lo guarding you. So you look like Superman the last couple of years against the Lakers.
But now you have to guard somebody.
Now you have to guard. D'Lo was going out there and putting up donuts in the playoffs and getting 0 points. Luka is and I said this yesterday, Wayne on here. They have somebody to match what Jokic does. Before they weren't able to match it, even with Murray doing his thing and AD doing his thing, because Jokic is not only getting you 35, he's getting you 35, 15, and 12. Now the Lakers got somebody getting you 35, 15, and 12. And Jamal Murray, are you going to match the production that LeBron's going to give out? Nope. Michael Porter Jr., are you going to match the production of Austin Reeves? The Kobe of the Ozarks, as you say, he's going to put out? No. So I don't. man, I don't think the Nuggets want to play the Lakers. Everybody always says
No,
the
no, I
Nuggets
don't.
the Nuggets got Lakers number, and they want to. I think that was the old.
No,
Lakers.
no, no. I think this is a bad match. You know, like I said, I watched it twice. I watched the Nuggets defeat I watched the Lakers defeat the Nuggets
on Saturday. Primetime television.
And that was, and it's just a bad matchup. It's just it puts Jokic
in a compromised position.
Yeah, they put him in a lot of pick and rolls, you know, and defensively they're able to you know, they double Jokic, sometimes tripling, and then they'll make Brown and you know,
Aaron Gordon,
and the other guys. Now, the other night they were hitting.
Yeah,
you know, but at the end of the day, I mean, they just, you know, I think it's a bad matchup for the Nuggets. And it's not surprisingly a tough matchup for the Lakers because the Nuggets are supposed to be tough. You know what I mean? But I'm just looking forward to the playoffs. I'm looking forward to the matchups. I think if the Lakers, and it very well could be the situation, especially if the Lakers end up at 4 or 5, they could end up having Memphis or Houston in the first round, and then possibly getting.
You will get OKC in the second.
OKC in the second round, and then
if you get past that, it'd be
then you have whoever shows
Denver.
up. Denver.
Golden
It'll be
State.
Denver, Golden State. It'll be one of those other teams. I just think it's the best case situation for.
So you think the Lakers want to go play Oklahoma City?
To go to the finals over the Nuggets?
I'm just saying, just in general, like they want to see them in the playoffs.
I don't think it would want. It's an ideal first round matchup.
Oh, definitely not.
But I do think it's an ideal second round matchup for them.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's. I think we don't have any. You know, Lakers don't have anybody that necessarily matches up great against Shea. But they don't have anybody that truly matches up against Luka or Bron at all.
I think Oklahoma City.
They have
is a
some
good
guys
matchup
they have bodies they can throw at Bron.
No, they're outside of their two bigs. Oklahoma City is really small. Like they play. Shout out to Kenrich, a guy here from Waco. They play him at the 5 a lot of times.
But what I'm saying, they can throw Williams at him. They can throw Dort at Bron. They got bodies they can throw at Bron. I'm not saying they're going to be effective, but I'm just saying they just got a lot of bodies they can throw at Bron. It still may end up at 40 with 40. And then they can throw those guys at him, and they don't have to score. So that's the other thing.
I think it's a bad matchup for OKC with the Lakers because you can't. I don't think they can handle Bron and Luka at the same time because they have all those bodies you throw at LeBron, but then who do you put on Luka? Or we have all these bodies we throw at Luka. I think that's what's going to be. They're going to put Dort and those guys are going to guard Luka like he did in the playoffs last year when he was in Dallas. But this new form of LeBron, not new form because we've seen it before in Miami, but him being able to roam and really just find a random matchup somewhere within your scheme of your defense and just go get a bucket, I think that is a bad matchup for everybody in the league.
Well, I think OKC is they're going to switch everything.
Yeah, they are.
And then when they do that, they'll create some situations with what's my guy Chet Holmgren.
And Hartenstein down there.
Yeah, I mean those guys are good matchups on the floor. Lakers have, they can play 5 players that are threats to score. That makes it tough. They can put 5 shooters on the floor. Like it's surprising how Luka just changed the complexion of what their team is
entirely. Completely changed it by what he was able to do. Because now, who is guarding Austin Reeves? We just talked about all these people. Somebody got to guard Austin Reeves because this is not the Austin Reeves of 2 years ago that came out against Memphis and really started making a name for himself. Austin Reeves is here. He's getting a dub. He's good. You could book him in for 20. And once you do that, I just don't. I think the Lakers would want to play OKC. I think that's a bad matchup for the Oklahoma City Thunder to try to go out there and get him. And then especially if I just got my eye on OKC because I do like them as a team and I love Shea. He definitely should get the MVP. But if they don't get all these foul calls, they're gonna have to come up with a new offense. Because right now their offense is just
Well,
let's
you're not
just run
getting
and
those
get
in the
fouled. And you're not getting those.
You're not getting those in the playoffs.
You're not getting those. So what's the offense going to be? Because right now their offense is Shay's averaging 33, but he's shooting 15 free throws. So what if he only shoots 6 free throws? Is he getting 30-something consistently like he didn't get against Dallas last night? And then who's going to actually be the number 2? Right now, it's cool because we just playing defense and anybody can go get. They got Wiggins off the bench. He got 40 the other night. Kenrich had like 20-something the other night. Just random guys can go get. But in the playoffs, that guy's not getting 40. So who's the other points coming from? Will Jalen Williams step up? That's why they lost to Dallas last year. So I'm like you. I'm excited for these playoffs and what's to come here in the NBA and what these matchups, especially in the West. The East is garbage. It's really it's going to be Cleveland and Boston. That's what we're going to see. The Knicks, Tom Thibodeau continues to ruin his teams by playing them too many minutes. So the Knicks aren't a real valuable option. I wish Orlando was healthy. I would have liked them. Milwaukee is kind of up in the air with what they're going to do. So the East is kind of just out. But the West is loaded, and the West is going to be a lot of fun. My Rockets right now sitting at number 2. We might be going home in the first round depending on who we play, just because I think we're young and inexperienced.
Well, I mean, I think if because the way it looks, so the way it's kind of looking for a while, it looked like Houston could play Memphis in the first round. I think that would be a great.
I would like that Memphis matchup if we could get a team like we're both young. It's your young versus our young.
It's looked like it could be a 4 or 5 thing. My idea is that I really want the Lakers to get a play-in team in the first round. I think that's best case scenario. Get a play-in team.
Sacramento, somebody like that.
Yeah,
the Clippers, Minnesota, somewhere in that.
Get a play-in team. And then after that, you deal with you deal with a Memphis or Houston.
Yeah.
And then you finish it off dealing with either Shea or the Nuggets.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like ideally speaking, that's
the route they want to go.
That's what you want.
Yeah.
You don't want Oklahoma and the Nuggets if you can avoid it. You don't shy away from it because that's what. But that would a route like that will require the Lakers to finish second.
Yes.
And I don't know if they'll be able to do that.
With LeBron being out, and then how healthy is LeBron going to be? Last time we seen him with this groin injury, they made it to the Western Conference Finals, but LeBron wasn't LeBron that we're used to. A lot of those games he was having to go out there and get.
But that's also the year he had that foot problem too.
Yeah, I think so. That was a couple years ago when they ended up losing the Nuggets in Western Conference Finals.
So the last time I remember him having this growing problem, and I mean, knock on wood, is when they had the number one, the best, correct me if I'm wrong, you can look it up. I think they had the number one record at Christmas. He has the growing injury. They have a bunch of losses. He comes back right after the All-Star break, and then he pulls it and he's shut down for the year.
That was his first year in LA. I think that was like 19.
Because that's when he had the young guys with him.
He still had Lonzo and Brandon Ingram before they traded
you
for
remember
Anthony
that?
Davis.
You remember that?
Yeah, they were like a top 3 seed. I think because they started off low, I think, and then they ended up moving up to like a top 3 seed, and everybody was like, "Braun got these young dudes playing."
And then he gets hurt,
pops the groin, and he was pretty much done after that.
But he hurt it on Christmas the first time because he did the splits on the floor, and then he comes back and. I don't know if it's a groin or an abdominal is what he pulls, but he pulls something.
Yeah,
and he's out for the season.
Yeah, that was when his first year in LA. When I wish the team that would have made the playoff because I was excited to see what those young guys would have did. Maybe Anthony Davis doesn't get there. We don't know that. But
well, that's another aspect of it. Is, maybe that was the Anthony Davis holdout.
Yeah, that could have been it. Saying, hey, let's just go and get AD next year. They won the championship the next year with AD anyway, so it ended up working out for him. But like you said, the NBA super interesting as we get down to this home stretch, like I like to call it, for the NBA. We're already in March. As soon as March Madness is over, we're gonna get the NBA playoffs. So this is the best time of year if you're a basketball fan, folks. Speaking of March Madness, while we got a few minutes left here on the show, I want to look over here at the first round of the March Madness. It's March Madness bracket, folks. It's March Madness. I want to look over here. And we're going to talk about some of these games. first round and give you guys a little insight, at least to what we think here. You know, it's just our measly old opinions here. But if you're looking for somewhere to go for some picks here, we'll give a couple to you right here. We'll go ahead and start it off right here in the South. Obviously, Auburn playing Alabama State or SFA, I believe that would be.
No, that's St. Francis, Pennsylvania, or something like that.
So Auburn with the win there. We don't have to go. We don't have to give too much insight into that. So let's get to the more interesting matchups here. The 8-9 matchup, Louisville and Creighton. Louisville had a pretty good record this year, and I like this Louisville team. I think they can do something. But Creighton just seems like one of those upset teams to me. Every year in the playoffs, in March Madness, Doug McDermott's dad, I forget what his name is, but Coach McDermott, who's been at Creighton for years, always seems to find a way. They're going to have some dude that can just shoot the lights out. Always. They always got a guy like that. And when I look down to some of their guys and I see their big man that's averaging almost a double-double with 19 points and 8 and almost 9 rebounds, I'm starting to look like, hey, you know, maybe this Creighton team could be one of those teams to upset. So in my bracket, I like this Creighton team coming out here and getting a win. Their Big East team. The Big East was actually competitive again this year with teams like St. John's, who we'll talk about later at the bottom of the bracket. I like this Creighton team, though, against Louisville.
Like I said, ACC was down this year.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know how good they really were. Louisville has a really good record.
Yeah.
But you can look at their seeding and see that the committee had some questions about how good their team was.
27-7, you're at 8 seed.
I expect, yeah. I mean, I think this is one of those quintessential toss-ups, and you're not wrong for picking Creighton, in my opinion, in this one.
So I think that's definitely a toss-up game. One of the more toss-up games going forward. This is one that people are looking at. Everybody always looks at the 5 and the 12s. I forget who this is. University of California, San Diego.
Yeah.
I believe is who it is.
Yeah.
Taking on Michigan. Now this team is good. They got a 30-4 record. But I watched this Michigan team play a couple of times, man. I think this team's got some grit to them. And they're ranked. They got a 5 seed for a reason. The Big Ten was highly competitive this year, and Michigan was able to have some success out there. I like Michigan moving forward against San Diego.
So this is why we have issues in this particular matchup. A lot of those 5 seeds, in my opinion, are overseeded.
Yes.
You know, and I say overseeded for this reason, right? The committee really wants to. They come from a big conference.
Mm-hmm.
The committee really wants to put them on the 4 line.
Mm-hmm.
They probably deserve the 6 or the 7 line.
Mm-hmm.
But because they come from the Big Ten, they get put on the 5 line, and they get what could be a pretty difficult matchup. But I'm with you. You have to take Michigan in this matchup, just based on pedigree, and their competition. And Michigan down the stretch this year, closing out their tournament, getting to the championship.
Yeah. That's what made me put them in there. That extra boost that they did in the tournament and able to have some success out there, I think that helped them a lot. Texas A&M and Yale. Yale, another one of those teams that it just seems like they're one of those upset type of guys.
So this is one of the ones the committee, I knew they were going to be in prime time.
Mm-hmm.
This is a team that the committee expects to be very competitive based on matchup and the way these teams play.
Mm-hmm.
Texas A&M is one of the worst 3 shooting teams in the league. So Yale is one of the best shooting teams.
Mm-hmm.
What they believe, in my opinion, the committee is that this game will be closed virtually by the fact that Yale will play a slow-paced team.
Mm-hmm.
Texas A&M is going to miss, only going to shoot 37 to 40%.
Yep.
That's going to allow the game to be close down the stretch, and, of course, Yale will have a chance to win. There's another way this game could turn out, too. Yale could have trouble getting the ball up the court and succumb to the pressure of A&M, and A&M not have to shoot threes. They end up getting a lot of layups and turnovers. We'll just have to see how the game turns out.
Yeah.
But with the athleticism advantage, right, and not having what I would consider a dominant player on the Yale team that can really take advantage of what A&M has A&M's weakness, I got to go with Texas A&M on this one. I know
Yeah.
styles make fights,
Mm-hmm.
but there's just as good a chance as this get out of hand as it be very competitive.
And I think that's why we see the line the way it is. Now, I pick A&M in this game, but I do like the line of the 7.5 a year because I think this is one that can get close. But it's 7.5 for a reason because if it's not close, this could turn into a major blow about halftime.
Yeah.
Because like you said,
Yeah.
A&M can't shoot the ball. They got athletes out there.
Just think about this.
Mhm.
At any point that Yale gets 10 points behind, the game is virtually over.
Yeah, it's over with. Yeah, because they're not gonna if they're not making the three, they lose by 20 plus. If they're not making the three significantly, because it's the reason why they put Yale in at 14.
A&M is a great defensive team.
Yeah, they are.
And like when you say styles make fights, if this game is a little more physical, which you know,
Well, A&M
sometimes
wants it
it's
to be.
allowed to be,
Mm-hmm.
that plays in A&M's hands, and you know it could be.
Yeah, I think that would definitely play in an
Now
A&M.
this game right
hand.
here is, I think, very interesting.
Ole Miss and
I think Ole Miss is loses to either one of those teams.
I pick North Carolina to beat them in this matchup, in this 6-11 matchup. I think North Carolina getting that second little boost. Now
they play tonight.
They'll
so
see. I'm about to say we'll see what they do tonight against San Diego State. But I just don't like Ole Miss. Wayne was on it yesterday. We talked a little bit about the bracket, and he said the SEC teams are way too overrated than they are. This was a record-breaking year. I think 14 out of the 16 available teams in the SEC made the turn. Like all of those guys can't be that good. So somebody is going to lose in this first round. And Ole Miss, they got a guy that can play. I wish they would let me pull up the preview thing here, but I forget the guy's name. They got a guard that can really get after it. So I do think that they do have a good chance to winning this, but I'm not that big of a fan of their style. And what I've watched at least so far, and me going back and looking through some of these teams trying to find, I wasn't just crazily impressed by Ole Miss in any type of way, and that's kind of why I see this North Carolina team, if they're able to beat San Diego State tonight, moving forward. Iowa State versus Lipscomb. I like Iowa State in this one. I like Iowa State a lot. I know that they're missing one of their top scorers, and Keyshawn Gilbert. I think he's going to be hurt in this game. But I still like Iowa. I watched a lot of their games this year, watching a lot of Big 12 stuff. I think Iowa State wins this one.
Yeah,
pretty convincingly.
I think they gotta. I think his injury will factor in more if they were seated lower.
Yeah.
But where they're seated now, which was I think it was a good idea for them to conceal that injury, so they can get the better seeding. I think they got a favorable matchup.
Yes.
Now, if they have to play North Carolina without Gilbert, it's going to be tough.
That is going to be very tough. Them or San Diego State, I think that's going to be a tough matchup. Marquette and New Mexico. This is one of those toss-up games. I took New Mexico in this one. I watched a little bit of their games and or just some highlights of their games when I was going through and picking some of this stuff. It's a closely contested one. I just honestly didn't like a lot of what I've seen from Marquette. Cam Jones can get after it now.
Let me see the point spread again.
Cam Jones can get after it. It's 3.5 with favoring Marquette in this one. But I watched the Nelly Jr. dude. I know he's only averaging 14, but he can get after it as well. And Donovan Dent is obviously the guy that everybody was watching. This dude can go and get it. I think I'm waiting to see this matchup between him and Cam Jones and to see who can come out on top with this one. This is another one of those toss-up games. That's why it's a 7-10 matchup. But I picked New Mexico to get an upset in this one.
Okay. I think New Mexico is often underseeded in these situations.
Yeah.
And without Marquette having what I would consider a tremendously dominant player, I agree with you. I'll take New Mexico on this one as well. There's going to be some upsets. You have to get them. I don't think we have to discuss this one very much.
No.
Michigan.
Michigan State will be moving on in that one.
Florida,
that's one we don't have to think about.
This is interesting here. I'll just take the coach in this situation. I don't even have to see the game. With Oklahoma being a 9th seed, coming from the SEC, they're overseeded. Because of the number of teams that made it over, and that this is UConn's time to shine.
Yeah,
and they're not going to go down. They're defending their championship. They may not get a chance to in the Final Four, but they'll win this game.
I think this was one of the ones I picked.
And they
as
are
an
the
upset.
favorite, correct?
They're
I knew
the
they were
5.5 point favorite in this
one.
one.
I mean,
this one has a chance to be one that comes down to the end because of this guy right here, Jeremiah Fears, I watched only a couple of his games when they played on TV, but I watched the SEC tournament, and he was tearing everything up moving in the SEC tournament.
And that's
moving
the
forward.
fourth ball brother, right?
So this is Leangelo and Solo. This is the last one left. Solo ball.
No,
you know,
no relation. But
yeah,
you know,
no,
you have
sure.
you have Lonzo, Jello, Mello, and Solo.
And Solo. It's only fitting. It's only fitting. This the little cousin. He ain't from Chino Hills. He from Compton. They didn't let him get in the family. He didn't get to go to
But
Chino
yeah,
Hills.
it's funny. Solo ball.
That goes perfect along
you
with
know,
it.
it'd be funny if that's a nickname. Solo is a nickname because he doesn't have a ball brother.
Yeah,
you know?
It's the fourth ball brother making his debut out here. This is an interesting one. Colorado State and Memphis. This is one that a lot of people picked as one of those upset games. They seen Colorado State coming here. I actually like Memphis in this one. I think Memphis is a pretty good team.
love Penny.
Yeah,
Penny,
exactly.
Penny
exactly.
is a really good coach. Let me look at the point spread.
Colorado State's favorite. Everyone's picking them to lose.
Yeah, I'm taking Michigan.
Everyone's
in this
picking.
game. I'm taking Michigan in this game. I get a point and Michigan. Yeah,
That's what I'm thinking. I get the point. That is one that I will be doubling back on in the point spread. Maryland and Grand Canyon.
I met some kids while I was in San Diego last week. I met some kids who were on spring break from Grand Canyon. When I talked to them, I'm gonna consider that a good luck omen. I really like Grand Canyon in this situation. I think the ACC is down
Weak.
this year.
Yeah, they're weak.
And I think Grand Canyon, playing out west, they don't have a time zone to adjust to.
Yeah. They can just come right out and get after it.
Yeah.
I like Grand Canyon in this one. I took Maryland in this one because of Derek Queen. That's really it. They got a big guy, big 7-footer downloaded, probably the most talented big man in the nation probably right now. So that's the reason I would pick them after that. But I got Maryland losing after that. We're gonna talk about the first round today, but
Okay.
I like Maryland in this one. But that's one of those toss-up ones. Grand Canyon is another one of those that everybody's trying to get in on the upsets. Now, this is one of the upsets I took. Like I already said, I'm not a believer in the SEC. Missouri is one of those mid-SEC teams.
You almost got to take Drake in this one.
Drake is 30-3. Like they got to be doing something right down there going into 30-3. I think Drake. I probably took them faster than any of these 6-11.
Let's look at the point spread and see what the odds makers think.
They like Missouri in this one. And Missouri had.
Yeah.
I mean, they got guys that can play. So I'm not shocked by that. But I think this is one of those ones Drake is going to show up to play in this game against Missouri. But Vegas likes Missouri in this one, and they're obviously favored in this for a reason.
I have to look at Drake's non-conference schedule and see what's going on.
Yeah, I got a chance to peek at some of their schedule a little bit earlier. They didn't have anything too impressive, but they got wins over valuable teams. When I saw the Kansas State and the Vanderbilt win, I was like, okay, that caught my attention, and I think that they can actually go out there and do something.
Heck yeah. Scroll down. What do they do down the stretch?
They only lost to Bradley and Murray State in their conference. Outside of that, I think they blew everybody else out in that conference.
Okay.
And they got D1 wins: Florida, Atlantic, Miami. Even though Miami was trash this year, Vanderbilt, and Kansas State.
But that Kansas State win is a big win.
Yeah, and Vanderbilt's in the tournament. Vanderbilt's a 10 seed, so they beat another tournament team. So that's why I like Drake in this one. Tech and UNC Wilmington. If it was another team, I kind of like this UNC Wilmington team, but I like Tech, man. I think Tech's got I watched them when they played Baylor.
Ballers.
Tech got some guys. JT Toppin, I think, is a monster. I really like what he's able to do, and I actually like Tech.
No, Baylor didn't have a Toppin guy. No.
I think he's. I can't
Obi
remember.
Toppin
I think that I'm trying to remember if that's his brother or not. I can't remember if it is or not, but I want to say that Obi Toppin is the brother of JT Toppin. Kansas and Arkansas. This is one of the more interesting ones. 7-10 seed. Bill Self versus Calipari. You don't really usually get that in the first round matchup. I like Kansas in this one. I think Arkansas, they kind of just threw a lob and put Arkansas. They didn't have an impressive season when I was going back and just reviewing some of their wins and losses.
Look at notable wins.
And,
they had some notable matchups.
Yeah, I watched this Kansas team. They struggled, but the Big 12 was tough. When you look at the teams that Kansas struggled against, Arizona's a 4 seed, Houston's a 1 seed, Iowa State's a 3 seed, and they got some wins over
Let's
Iowa
look
State.
at Arkansas, see
And
what
then-
they look like.
Lost.
Yeah, all the
They
good
just
teams.
threw some of these SEC teams. They just threw in there.
But
Arkansas
every time
didn't have an
every
impressive
time
year.
I watched them, they were very competitive. And
They
every
were.
game I seen them on
And
TV,
they
they
got a
didn't
lot of-
win any of them.
Yeah, they didn't. But these dudes is 5 stars. I mean, they got Boogie Flan and DeJuan Wagner Jr. is on their team. Like they got 5 stars out there, but
What does the odds makers think about this?
they got Kansas as 4.5 point favorite in this one. Hunter Dickinson is the main reason why I'm picking Kansas. Arkansas don't have anybody that can guard Hunter Dickinson. There's not so many people in the tournament. And I think we're all taking St. John's on this one. St. John's one of the more respected teams in this tournament right here. Going back up the other side of this bracket real quick. Tennessee and Woodford. Yeah, Tennessee is one of the most dangerous teams in this one. This is a very interesting one. I took Utah State in this. I think UCLA kind of got lobbed in there just based off of the Big Ten and what they were doing.
They need to put somebody in
They needed to put some more Big Ten teams in, but UCLA, they struggled with the loss to North Carolina was bad because North Carolina shouldn't even be in the tournament. Honestly, they kind of got lobbed in there because they're North Carolina. Struggling. They got blown out by Michigan. Illinois, even though Wisconsin's a good team. I didn't like the way they performed in their conference. Utah State, I think, has got the makeup of one of those teams that can come out there and pick up a dub. So I like Utah State in that one. Kentucky, I like them over Troy, even though that'll be a pretty fun matchup to watch. This Texas and Xavier one, I think, Xavier could win tonight, but I like Texas in that game against Xavier. And I'm kind of inclined to lean towards them against this Illinois matchup.
I think Illinois has some really good. If you look, you can't see.
Because it's not.
They got some really good wins, but I would take Illinois. But you know.
No, yeah. I like it either way on that one. That's one of the top. I'm not confident on that 6-11 matchup at all. I really want to see what Texas is going to do tonight. Honestly, see how I'll go with that.
In that
yeah,
one.
Purdue's they're gonna blow out High Point.
Then this Clemson McNeese matchup is interesting.
It's interesting, but
I'm surprised that McNeese got such a high seeding.
Yeah, me too. I thought McNeese would have been a 14 if they did get
Let's
seeded
look
in
at
this
their notable wins that they have
one.
on matchup.
Got a loss against. No, they're only notable. No, they don't. The competition they played, they lost to. Santa Clara's a decent team. Liberty's a good team. Mississippi State's a good team. They lost all those guys. Lost to Mississippi State twice.
What it looks like is they played some big teams competitive.
Yeah, they did. And that may be what got them to that 12 seed going in there. But I like Clemson. I think Clemson's got some pretty good wins. The ACC was down this year.
So, what people are looking at is that Alabama game and then that Mississippi State game, and they didn't want to put them. They didn't want to put those guys against a 1 or 2.
Yeah, they didn't want to put them at a 15 or 14 spot.
Yeah, when they could,
and they accidentally go out there and
bite
upset somebody that they want to win.
I
like this Clemson team, not only in this game but moving forward, man. Looking and seeing those notable wins, and I seen the win over Duke was big. I mean, you getting the win over 1 seed is big, and just the way that they performed in their conference, even though the ACC was down, still go 27.
Yeah, you got to go with Clemson on that one.
I like Clemson in that one. This one is one of those toss-up ones. I like Gonzaga in this one.
Yes.
I'm not
Can
much
you click
of a
on
fan
the preview
of
see where it's played at?
It's going to be played in Wichita, Kansas.
That's pretty neutral.
That's pretty neutral. I get that one to Gonzaga. Georgia, another one of those SEC teams. They just threw in there. Y'all didn't have to throw them in there. Houston, obviously, moving forward. Last side here of the bracket before we get off the show here. Alabama and Robert Morris. Alabama, obviously, there.
I'm taking St. Mary's right there.
I'm taking St. Mary's as well. Vanderbilt did play decent, but another one of these SEC teams I just wanted to throw in there. I'm taking St. Mary's in that one. I think St. Mary's might actually get I'm going to watch how they play. I think they might have potential to upset that Alabama team, too. Wisconsin and Montana, I like Wisconsin this one. Wisconsin's got a good squad this year. Montana, 25-9. They've played pretty well this year as well, but I think Wisconsin will be able to go out there and take care of business. Didn't see too much when I looked at their notable wins or their notable games that they played against in that one, so I liked Wisconsin. BYU and VCU, this one was interesting to me. VCU always one of those upset teams. You got to take a look at them every single time. BYU is a team that was kind of up and down. They beat some good teams in the Big. I mean, I watched some of their games because they're in the Big 12, but they also lost some games that I feel like they could have won or they had the leads on and ended up blowing that game. That Baylor one was.
But if you look at them, they didn't lose to any bad team.
No, definitely not. They lost to Arizona and Houston, which they're supposed to lose to.
Yeah,
that's the cream of the crop. And then they got big wins against Iowa State. They got 2 wins over Iowa State, and I think that's what got them to that 6th seed. So that's why I'm gonna take BYU in that one. Akron usually one of those teams to pull off an upset, but this Arizona team, I don't see Akron having anybody that can get the output that Caleb Love has.
Yeah.
Caleb
Now,
Love's one of the best guards in the nation.
I think that point spread is a little generous, though.
That makes me reconsider. I might have to double back and go jump in on the plus side there for Akron because 13.5 is crazy to think. But I get why they did that. Caleb Love's one of the best guards in the nation. Oregon and Liberty. If it was another team, I would have picked Liberty in this one. But I got to watch a couple of these games with Oregon. Oregon's got a squad. I think Oregon's got a chance to be able to beat some teams moving forward, not just in this first round, though. But this is going to be a fun game, though. I think it's going to be a fun matchup against Liberty moving forward. I like Oregon. Obviously, I'm going to be a homer on this one. Mississippi State's got a good team. I'm going to take Baylor on this.
Absolutely.
I got to be a homer on this one.
Let's look at Mississippi State's notable wins.
This dude can ball. That's the main reason. Josh Hubbard's a monster. I watched him play in a couple teams, games.
Let's look at this.
They lost to majority of their big.
They lost to the good team.
Bama is good. Florida's the number 1 seed. Tennessee's a 2 seed. Auburn's a 1 seed. Kentucky's a 3 seed. So they don't have many notable wins. The A&M one is kind of because I'm not that big on A&M.
Let's look at Baylor.
Oh, Baylor, same thing. This was early in the year in tournament time when they lost to those guys. But they didn't get the production in the Big 12 that they
lost a lot of close games.
A lot, but that Tech one is one that they were supposed to. That was at Baylor. Oh no, that was at Tech. That's a game they should have won.
No, that was a tournament game.
Okay, yeah. This was a tournament game, and that was the one they definitely should have won. That I was mad at the Highlands Gym when I was
they should have won
trying
that
to keep him with
Houston
that.
game too.
That was the one at home. They should have won the Houston game for sure. This Arizona game got away from them at the last minute in those final seconds. So I mean Baylor.
Yeah, they played better competition and done better.
Yeah, they definitely. I think they got a chance to go there. Nick O'Meara is going to be huge.
So how did Mississippi State play teams like Auburn and Alabama? That's what I want.
They did not. I know they lost the game.
Did they get blew out? Or?
A couple of those they got. I know they got blew out by Auburn.
They got worked. Tennessee they got worked. Well,
yeah. Florida, Bama they got.
Yeah, Baylor should win it. Baylor should win that.
Yeah.
They played better against better competition.
They did. That's 100%. I get that to Baylor. Last one, Duke and American. So obviously we'll pick Duke in that way, even though they don't got Cooper Flag. So those are some of the picks, guys, that we like for this first round matchup. Like I said, March Madness starts tonight. Matter of fact, I'm finna go home and get a chance to get to watch some of these games here tonight. We got HBCU Coaches Corner coming on tonight, Rock. What do you guys got lined up for tonight?
We got the newly hired offensive coordinator from Mississippi Valley State. He's going to sit down and have a conversation with us. We're also going to have a HBCU basketball insider, Herb, on. He's going to talk a little basketball with us, both boys and girls side. And I also want to take this time out to say congratulations to an HBCU alum, Coach Candace Thomas,
for sure.
in the MCC Highlasses and their victory in the regional tournament this past weekend. I will happen to be there, and it was a sensational game. I watched it, was there live a little bit, and then I finished up watching it online. Mm-hmm. It was absolutely sensational, and I don't know what their schedule is coming up this week in the I guess the national tournament. Mm-hmm. But I can't wait to see how they'll fare. I think those girls are really tough, and I expect they will do well in the.
Yeah, and they're going down in the history books. I said on the broadcast when we finished the game that I felt like this was the birth of a new coaching star in Coach Candace Thomas, and just her second year being able to do something they haven't done in 40 plus years.
Her alma mater, Prairie View, just let go of their women's coach.
we were in here talking off air, talking about that with my dad and Wayne was all in here. Yeah,
Coach Candace Thomas is a bona fide superstar head coach.
Just got inducted into the Hall
MCC.
of Fame at PV this year, a couple of months ago, matter of fact. Got inducted into the PV Hall of Fame.
Oh, so they know her. They have her on the radar.
She has got to be on the radar. I think the top of the list. I love having Coach Thomas here at MCC, but she has got to be because, like I said, I think this is the start of a new coaching star. You come in your first 2 years after paying your dues all those time as an assistant. And your first 2 years.
And has historically relevant seasons.
Back to back. You go undefeated at home your first year, only 5 or 6 losses on the season. You come back in next year win the regional tournament, something the women haven't done since I think 1981. So you're doing phenomenal things there, Coach Thomas. So I can't wait to be able to watch you guys.
11 years old.
Moving. I wasn't even being thought about.
No.
I ain't even graduated high school yet. So I wouldn't.
I can assure you.
I'm the third, so I sure wasn't getting thought about. If they even had any names or anything else planned, I sure wasn't getting thought about. But folks, we're out of time here today. I want to thank everybody for tuning in with us here today on Centex Primetime. We're going to be back. We got some more MCC sports coming on tomorrow, but Thursday we'll be back here in person. We'll talk some more about this March Madness. It'll be in full effect by that point, so y'all will be tuning in to both. I'll have some of the games playing up here on the screen, so we'll be tuning in and doing some live look-ins of some of these games, too, on Thursday. So we'll get ready for a fun show on Thursday. I want to thank everybody for tuning in with us. I want to thank Rocky for coming on here with us today. HBCU Coaches Corner coming up in a few minutes, so make sure y'all check that out over on YouTube. Signing off here today, Jalen Gillis here with Rocky Miller. We will see you guys next time. Everybody have a great night.
Peace.